New Yorkers. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I am Councilmember Rita Joseph, Chair of the Committee on Education, but more importantly, I am a forever educator. We are here to address a critical issue that impacts every one of us, the future of our children and the vitality of our city. As you can see, we have a large coalition here today from parents, labor, education, advocates, and members of the council. Investing in our early childhood education is not just a priority, it is a necessity. Our youngest New Yorkers deserve the best start in life, and it's our duty to provide it. Service providers across New York City are the backbone of the family, of early childhood education. They dedicate their lives to nurturing, teaching, and guiding our children during the most formative years. Though these educators need our unwavering support and robust funding to continue their invaluable work. In time, we recognize and honor their contribution by ensuring that they have resources they need. In particular, we must address the urgent need of funding in preschool special education. Every child, regardless of their abilities, deserves access to quality education. Yet, the lack of adequate funding has created gaps in servicing, leaving many children without legally mandated services they need to thrive. We cannot afford to overlook these children any longer. They are our future, and their potential is boundless. If given the right opportunities, the high cost of childcare is forcing many families to make difficult choices, and sometimes resulting in even leaving the city they love. This is unacceptable. New York City should be a place where families can grow and prosper, not a place they feel compelled to leave due to financial strain. Affordable childcare is essential for working families who are the lifeblood of our city. We must create an environment where they feel supported and valued. The clock is ticking on the budget deadline, and the decisions we make now will have lasting impacts. Mayor Adams, we urge you to put working class families and our youngest New Yorkers first. Deliver the investment into early childhood education that our city desperately needs. This is not just an investment in our children, it is an investment in the future of New York City. We have the opportunity to make New York City a place where families can thrive, where our children can grow into the leaders of tomorrow. The time is now to meet the moment. But before I do that, I want to take a moment to acknowledge my colleagues that are here. Councilmember Dinowitz, Councilmember Powers, Councilmember Nurse, Councilmember Majority Whip Brooks Powers, the Chair of Finance, the man who holds the council's purse right here, Justin Brennan. Any other of my colleagues, and Majority Leader Amanda Farias. Next, I would like to call up the Chair of the Finance Committee, Member Brennan.
So I'm going to be quick because I want to hear from the advocates, really, the folks who are doing this work. But I just want everyone to know that as hard as the advocates and everyone are fighting on the streets, your council is fighting even harder behind the scenes as we negotiate this budget. We put the early childhood education has been our top priority since day one of this council. And as we head into the final days of budget negotiations, it remains our top priority in this council. It doesn't only make sound policy, but it also makes, it's not only sound social policy, but it's smart economic policy. For hardworking, working class and middle class New Yorkers, early childhood education is just a lifeline. There's no other way to say it. As universal child care is still not a reality in this city, 3K and pre-K is just about as close as we've got. So we have to double down on these investments in special ed pre-K, in Promise NYC, in this council's pilot for longer day. The days of 8:30 to 2:30, leave it to Beaver education are over. Right. Working families need longer day schedules so they can go to work. And I just want everyone to know, because I know how hard you guys are fighting for us, and we appreciate that. We are fighting just as hard, trying to fight even harder than you are, to make sure that in the final days of this budget, we deliver a budget that is worthy of New Yorkers' support and ultimately is worthy of the support of working families in this city. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Chair Brennan. Is labor in the House? Yeah. It's labor in the House. Thank you for standing with us, Labor. Next, I'd like to call up parent Deidre Sawinski.
Good morning. My name is Deirdre Sawinski. I'm a physician and a parent of a child with a disability. I'm here today because I believe in the value and the transformative power of preschool special education services. I want to thank Speaker Adams, Councilmember Joseph, Councilmember Brannan, and all of the council members who are here today fighting for all children to have access to early childhood education. I want to thank you for recognizing that when we say all children, that includes children with disabilities like my son, Evan. When Evan was younger, I was concerned that he had very few words. An evaluation showed he had multiple delays. Last year, the DOE created a plan for Evan to receive services when he started preschool in September. I was relieved he would get what he needed. But instead, the school year started without him getting his occupational or physical therapy. I asked the DOE for help. I called, I emailed every week, but the DOE didn't have any providers available to go to his preschool. After 2 months, when they still couldn't find a provider, they offered occupational therapy at an agency, but only in the middle of the day, which would have required me to leave work, pull Evan out of preschool, transport him cross town, stay with him for the 60-minute session, bring him back to preschool, and then go back to work 3 times a week. This is incredibly disruptive for children and simply not possible for working parents. Evan has issues with regulation and sensory challenges. During the months in which he went without occupational therapy, he would sit by himself during circle time and would not engage with the other children. He wouldn't finger paint and was afraid of touching Play-Doh. What kind of experience is this for a child? When Evan finally began receiving occupational therapy in January, I saw the difference that it made. But the DOE never found a physical therapist to go to his preschool, and this is a year of missed services that he will never get back. Unfortunately, my child is not alone. Last year, 12,300 preschoolers with disability ended the year without even starting their mandated class or at least one of their mandated services. More than 1,000 of these children needed a seat in a preschool special education class because of their intensive needs, but they never got one. Children sitting at home instead of in a classroom because of their disabilities. As a parent and a New Yorker, I'm outraged. Shame on those who would seek to deny children the services they so desperately need and to which they are legally entitled. When children don't get their services, their needs don't go away. Preschoolers who don't get their services become kindergarten students who need even more support. Mayor Adams, preschool special education services are not optional. Funding them is not optional. Parents need you to restore funding for 3K, pre-K, and fully fund preschool special education services now. The city's budget must include the funding needed to provide children with services as mandated by federal civil rights law. A therapy mandate without a provider is nothing at all.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Now I'm going to call Dr. Adis. Dr. Adis, are you here? Sorry. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Veronica Addis, and I'm the mother of a 5-year-old boy who's right here.
Yes.
And a member of New Yorkers United for Childcare. My son benefited from universal 3K and pre-K at a great Spanish-English bilingual program in our neighborhood. Having high-quality free daycare that reflected my cultural and linguistic background was huge for my family. If we had not gotten into a universal 3K pre-K program, I would have had to spend $2,600 per month just for daycare until 3 p.m., and then more to extend through the normal workday. This year, 2,500 families did not get a 3K pre-K spot, and many of the open spots are so far from where they live that they aren't realistically workable. I'm an OBGYN in a public hospital. Whenever I have patients who I know have babies or preschool-age children, I ask them if they're going to apply for free 3K and pre-K. I have been so disappointed at how many of my patients have never even heard of the DOE program. They are nearly all low-income women of color. That means that the outreach efforts at spreading the word about 3K pre-K are insufficient, and unfilled spots are likely a reflection of inadequate outreach rather than lack of need. My patients are the ones who most need free, high-quality daycare. They are the ones who can't afford to be a stay-at-home parent. That means they're forced to turn to less expensive but potentially underground or unlicensed daycare options, and it means they have to choose between childcare and other necessities like rent, food, and utilities. Childcare is an essential need. This DOE 3K pre-K program is truly amazing, but cutting funding is the wrong move. As New Yorkers, we can do better. We can't be cutting back right now when everything is so expensive and people can barely afford to live here. Speaker Adams, thank you for standing with us. We can't accept a budget that doesn't restore $170 million in cuts and restores the outreach team. We want 3K, universal 3K. We want 3K. We want 3K, universal 3K. We want 3K, universal 3K. We want 3K, universal. Yeah!
Thank you. Thank you so much. Next person I'd like to call up is Councilmember Jennifer Gutierrez. Okay. Next person I'd like to call is Karen Alford from UFT.
Good morning, everyone. I stand here as the Vice President of the Elementary Schools for the United Federation of Teachers, as well as a mother of 4 children. I know the importance of early child care. When we think about our kids as an educator, we think about them as seedlings, and we water them and we nurture them. And so for New York City, for Mayor Adams to not fund these programs, we are destroying our seeds. When you think about them as a house, we're not building the foundation. We had a program that worked in New York City. We had a program that understood enrollment moved, and so seats need to move. And so as families grow in other neighborhoods, the seats need to transition there. Before we had transparency. You knew where seats were. And just as importantly, we had marketing so that parents knew how to access the programs, and we had funding. And we are seeing all of that going by the wayside. And so I stand here to say, as a mother, as an educator, let's restore funding. Let's move seats to where they need to be. Let's ensure there's marketing because our children deserve an early start. We all understand that prisons are built based upon test scores, unfortunately. So we know the importance of learning. We know the importance of having our children receive instruction. And just as I stand here advocating for our students, I stand here as a parent advocating for parents. We understand that oftentimes, particularly women, cannot re-enter the workforce if they have to stay home because they can't afford to pay for childcare. And so we must think about the families and the adults and the allowance of having women particularly re-enter the workforce because their children are being cared for, they are learning, and they are safe in a school environment. And so I ask Mayor Adams to please restore this funding, because when you restore this funding, you bring folks back into the workplace, children learn, the New York City economy grows, and people get to stay right here in the city that we love. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge my council members, Councilmember Hudson, Councilmember Sanchez, Councilmember Bottcher. Thank you so much for standing with us today. The next person coming up is James Davis. Oh, there you go.
Good morning. My name is James Davis. I'm the president of the Professional Staff Congress, the union that represents the City University of New York. And on behalf of our 30,000 members, we're here to say that we support strongly the efforts that the Speaker, Councilmember Joseph, and all the other electeds are making to push in this budget to restore and reinvest in early childhood education. Why does early childhood education matter to the City University? Those are our students. Those are our families. Those are going to be our students, those little ones, in one generation. And those parents who need pre-K, who need 3K, those are students at CUNY as well. And their ability to meet their educational objectives depends on the supports that they have for their children. So CUNY is part of an entire educational ecosystem within the city that supports ordinary New Yorkers like you and me through elementary and secondary education all the way up through the City University. So what the city does on early childhood ed radiates down all the way through the line to our DOE schools and into the City University. We need a fully restored budget for early childhood ed. We need a fully functional education system, a system that meets the needs of working families and that supports their aspirations and their educational ambitions. So as the union at the CUNY system, we stand shoulder to shoulder with our siblings in labor and with the council members who are fighting for full restorations and reinvestment in early childhood ed. Thank you.
I hear we're fired up. We're fired up. I'd like to call Councilmember Bottcher to say a few words. Thank you.
Pre-K.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Pre-K.
When do we want it?
Now.
Eric Bottcher here representing the west side of Manhattan, Greenwich Village, Chelsea, Hell's Kitchen. I'm so proud to be here with my amazing colleagues, Councilmember Rita Joseph, and all my wonderful colleagues, and all these incredible unions and advocates here. New York has never been an easy place to live, ever. But it's getting more and more difficult, and it's getting impossible for working class families to stay in New York. And a big reason is because of the cost of childcare. I hear from families in our district all the time who call to let me know that they have to leave New York because they're expecting another child and they don't want to leave, but they have to leave. And it's because of childcare. We are so much better than this as a city. We can do so much better than this. It makes no sense that you've got thousands of people who can't get a slot. Then you've got thousands of unused slots. Is the answer to cut the unused slots? No. Let's have common sense. Let's do right by the people of New York City. And in this budget, let's restore this funding and provide child care for the people of New York City.
You heard it loud and clear from my colleagues. Next, Councilmember Gutierrez.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Joseph. I just want to quickly uplift my colleagues, starting with Chair Joseph, who is unwavering. She is the bomb.com. All the advocates have been working tirelessly with her, so let's give it up to Rita because it is tough. It is tough being the chair for the committee of the largest public school system in the country, y'all. And of course, I want to uplift our speaker, our finance chair. My name is Jennifer Gutierrez. I'm a mom. I'm a proud council member, and I'm so proud to stand with the advocates today and with my colleagues in fighting for investments, necessary investments to this year's budget. Point blank, this council cares about childcare. It is a priority. As the first women's majority council, we made that very clear in our first, second, and continued third year. This mayor, however, I think continues to stand in the way of that. There's been a lot of promises made to families, to parents, to educators, to young children about what the future is going to look like, but no money to back up those promises. We are struggling, y'all. Families, like mentioned before by Councilmember Bodger, are leaving the city. We cannot fall into the narrative that this is the greatest city on earth if you cannot afford to live here, if you cannot afford to eat here, and certainly not if you cannot afford for your child to seek care and education here. Right. So this council is unwavering in their commitment to, yes, these restorations, but doing more. Restorations is the first step. And the next step is to continue to expand what we all know, is that every child deserves access to universal child care and every family deserves to have that resource. So I'm excited to continue to work with this council. Thank you all so much. We are days away, I hope, but still very much fighting, still very much present. And this fight doesn't end today, and it certainly doesn't end with the budget, but we are hoping to get there. And just thank you all again for folks that have been showing up nonstop for a long time on this. Thank you, guys.
So our message is clear. Restore 3K, provide outreach and marketing, Promise NYC, and we're days away from the budget, unwavering support, and we're holding the line. Thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you.